All right, what's up, guys? I am back again with another training session, and today's session, this is actually from the weekend. Again, a couple days behind on my recording for these, but this is my shoulder and back, or rather back and shoulder session. Last week, we switched this from a Saturday session to a Friday session, and then we put my hamstring session on Saturday instead of Friday, so we just flipped those two around. Feels a lot better because I was hitting this fresh off of a rest day. First movement here, single arm cable row to lat. 8 to 10 reps is the goal in the first two sets, and then the third set, 12 to 15 reps. I backed off the weight a little bit on this last week, and it felt really good today to have the weight dialed in where it was. I felt more consistent with it. The form felt better. The connection felt better to the lat. Just overall felt a lot better through the movement. So first two sets here, 115 pounds, hit 12 reps and then 10 reps with that weight. Third set, 100 pounds, dropped off a little bit there, and then hit 15 reps with that weight. So next week, or this week as I'm recording this, the weight will go up on those first two sets since I hit the rep goal on a lower rep range, which is only 8 to 10. But that third set, again, the rep goal is 12 to 15, and I hit 15, so I could take an increase if I wanted, but I would like to be at 17 reps before I bump that up. So I'm going to keep that weight the same this week and just up the weight on the first two sets. But yeah, nothing crazy with this. This felt really good. I haven't changed anything here drastically. You might notice that I'm not bracing across my torso anymore, so I'm not reaching that non-working arm across, and instead I'm bracing on the same side as the arm. And I think that feels a lot better for me because it leads me to have less torso rotation, whereas when I cross brace, I kind of almost want to roll my shoulder into the movement in a bad way. So this felt a lot better. I felt a little bit more stable here. Again, not a huge change, just a little different way of setting up for me. Caused me a little less pain, a little less issue, with almost like a pinch in my back, which I sometimes have when I'm doing that cross bracing. Another really good way to brace here, if you can, is if you have like a long enough strap or something, you can wrap almost around your leg, or depending on the cable setup you're on, around the bench underneath you. You can kind of pull against that and almost use that as a handle. Some of these cable machines, depending on which one you have, actually just have a handle that you can adjust backwards and grab onto, and that's always really nice. So if you have that, obviously that makes it real easy. But here, you can, again, wrap a strap if you need to, latch it to the underside of the bench, and then kind of pull up through between your legs to grab the strap and then brace that way. But if you don't, then bracing, again, crossbody works just fine if you like that. For me, I like to brace on the same side. It felt a lot better doing it this way for me. So yeah, this was good today. Again, no real complaints. In fact, this whole day was really solid. We'll get to it here in a sec, but on my T-bar row, I made some weight changes, did some form changes there just to kind of see how things felt. And it looked and felt really, really good watching it back. I watched it back obviously before I started recording this, but yeah, we will get into that in just a sec. I am just going to let the last little bit of this movement play out, and then we'll hop into the T-bar row. Okay, so moving into the T-bar row, you will notice first and foremost that I took a significant weight drop here. I dropped all the way down from 140 or like 145 pounds to 90. And the reason I did this, I felt like in previous weeks, I was trying to keep that weight a little too close to my heavier day, which I had in place previously and no longer am doing, where I was doing an 8 to 12 rep range here. But this, again, is a 10 to 15 rep range on this movement. And you'll notice that with dropping the weight, I was able to significantly increase the kind of flexion there that I have bending over to give myself a better angle over the bar and really emphasize my mid and low back a lot better. The only downside to doing this the way I was doing this, which we have since addressed, I'll get into that in a sec, is you can see here, I'm shrugging with a neutral grip, which doesn't really feel super natural and doesn't really work as well. So here I switched to the pronated grip attachment, and it's better for the shrugs, the Kelso shrugs that I superset here, but it was worse overall for this movement. Didn't really feel as good, wasn't really as happy with it. So what we're gonna be doing here going forward is I'm going to be doing the neutral close grip here because it feels really good. It works my back really well. And then I'm actually going to be replacing my landmine row, which is the next movement you guys will see. We've only had it in for a couple weeks, but it just doesn't really click super well for me. So rather than waste more time trying to get it dialed in, we're just going to swap that out and we're going to go to a cable upper back row. Well, cable or chest supported machine. I haven't fully decided it yet. I'm going to see what feels better. But one of those two, a bilateral upper back row, will be in place after this movement. So next week, this is going to switch back to a neutral grip, and then it's going to be followed up by an upper back row, either on a machine, chest supported, or on a cable. Either way, that set or that movement is going to be the movement where I superset with my shrugs now. That upper back row is where I will be doing my shrugs rather than this. This is fine to do it here, and it just makes more sense for the structure of my session for me to make the changes that we're going to make. But yeah, no complaints here. This felt really good, dropping the weight and focusing on the form here a lot. 90 pounds across all three sets. I hit 17, 15, and 14. I'm just gonna add 5 pounds to this next week. I'm gonna start really slowing down the progression on this because I think something that bit me before was progressing too quickly and then running up the weight and feeling like my form suffered on this. So moving into the landmine row, again, like I said, this is going to, it's just not going to be here next week. We're going to switch this back out for a bilateral row, especially because another aspect of this is, you know, I go right from a T-bar row into a landmine row, so there's a lot of low back loading, and there's nothing wrong with that, but now that we've switched my week around a little bit and I'm doing my RDL day after this session, it's a little bit harder to get a good effective working set on that top set of the RDLs with the heavy weight, just because my back is a little more fatigued from having two movements on this day that load the low back a little bit more extensively. So again, just making tweaks. This is the last day that we're still making tweaks on. Everything else in the week is set. All of my other movements feel good. All my other days feel good. The structure for everything feels good, with, again, the exception of this day still being something that we need to dial in a little bit. But with respect to this movement, it did feel decent today. You know, the only thing I don't really like about this is, you know, I don't have a huge hand. So grabbing this bar can be a little awkward. And it just feels to me like maybe a dumbbell here would be a little bit better. But even more so than the grip, you'll see that I'm leaning into a bench rather than, you know, like a high block. Unfortunately, just due to what I have access to at my gym, the bench is the best option here. So it doesn't really give me as much like leverage as I would like on that front side. I would rather be rested against a block that's a little bit higher. And so I'm not bent over as much in the back and still rowing to that low lat. But again, it felt good. I did take a progression here this week. This is 55 pounds for 17 and then 15 with the same weight. So it was fine. No complaints really, other than, you know, just the kind of stuff I've already noted about how the structure feels. And again, we're already going to be making those changes to improve that. And next week we're going to have, I think I'm going to start with a chest supported row and see how that feels rather than a cable row, because I do already have two other cable row variants in during the week. I have, you know, my V grip cable row, that kind of close grip cable row, and then I have my single arm. So adding another one in feels like it would be a lot of that cable work without the chest support. And I think adding in an upper back chest supported row with a pronated grip will be probably a little bit more beneficial just for hitting some variety and how I'm targeting the back. So probably going to start with that. If it doesn't feel great though, then I'll end up just going to the cable and putting on a wide bar with that and doing a little bit of a wider, again, upper back targeted row where we're rowing from low to high to really hit that upper back. So that's the plan. Not a whole lot more to say about this. I think I just got one more arm here, so I'm going to let this play out, and then we will hop into my shoulder portion of the session. All right, moving into my machine laterals today. Took a weight progression here on the top sets. Everything else stayed the same, but the top set went from 125 to 130, hit 15 reps. The goal is 10 to 15. So this would be something I would not progress this week. However, I am going to make a few changes. You'll notice this today. I shouldn't say a few. I should say one key change. So let me run through what I did today. It's 130 for 15, then 112.5 for 15, and then 10, and then 87.5 for 15. That last set actually ended up being a little heavier per arm. And the reason I say that is you'll see on the last set, I actually switched to doing these single arm. And since we're dropping the landmine row next week and moving to a bilateral upper back row, I'm going to take the time that I would have otherwise spent doing the unilateral row movement, and instead I'm going to do these with single arm unilaterally, however you want to put it. So the benefit to doing these single arm, and again, you'll see it in that final set, these first 3 sets I did bilaterally, but that benefit is that you can kind of lock yourself in a little bit more. When you're doing this with a single arm, I can brace against the pad and I can leverage my position a little bit better, where I'm almost rotating the torso in such a way that I'm able to more effectively target the side delt without involving traps. It also has the added benefit of a lower total load, so I can more effectively target that side delt without involving the traps. Again, that's the big thing to keep in mind here. And with the better bracing, with the better targeting of the side delts, it's just a little bit more of an efficient movement for me that I feel better with. It just targets my delts better. I like the connection I have better. It feels a little bit better on my shoulders as well. So since I have the extra time, since we're taking out a unilateral movement, I'm going to be switching these to done unilaterally. That's just a really nice change. If you have the time in your session, doing them unilateral can be a really big benefit. And you'll see here what I mean when I say kind of rotating the torso. It's just basically kind of hugging that pad and locking in a little bit better. Allows me a better plane of movement with that arm, again, without involving the traps in such a way that I'm just throwing weight up, which I am a little bit more inclined to do with the bilateral. I'm still pretty good about it, but I like this a lot more. So we're going to stick with this and run with it from here. Not a whole lot more to say about this, I guess, other than the weights. Like I said, if I was doing the bilateral again, the weights would stay exactly the same, but since we're switching to single arm movements this week, the weights will obviously, on paper, decrease, but technically I noticed that I'm able to move a little bit more unilaterally than I am bilaterally. So for example, my last set would typically be 87.5 pounds, and I think last week I hit like 87.5 for 10. This week, this weight with one arm like this is like I have 50 pounds on right here and I hit 15 reps. So if you break it down per arm, it's technically an improvement. I don't know if you can really correlate that as easily. I don't really think you should, but if you want to look at it that way, you can. I think it's just down to the better bracing, the better leverages, just a better position overall to kind of make that weight feel a little more effective and easier to move, but also, again, at the same time, more effective. So this felt good. And then we are going to move into my shoulder press. This was the first week in probably 4 or 5 weeks where I didn't hit 15 reps on this top set. Remember, the goal is only 12. The goal is 8 to 12. So I've been blowing this out of the water every week. Took 5-pound increase here this week. You can see I've got the gym pin in with the plate on it. We are at 275 on this now, and I got 14 reps. So this is just piece of cake, you know. Instead of 270 for 15, we got 275 for 14. This will go up again to 280 next week. Second set, 275 for 10. That was the same as last week on the reps, just a straight up weight increase. So I'm going to go up to 280 on both sets, both of my heavy sets of this next week. I hit 145 for 16 on the third set, which was actually a rep loss over last week. Last week, I think I hit 145 for 19. That's okay. For those higher volume sets, you know, they really come down to how fatigued are you from the first 2 heavy sets. And it's all right that I didn't progress that and took a few reps off. Not a big deal there. That's mostly just metabolite and pump work anyway at the end of this movement, since it's a high 15 to 20 rep goal. So the weight on the third set will stay at 145 next week, and we're just going to try and crank out 22 reps, because once we hit 22 reps, it goes up by 5 pounds. So that's really all for this one. Again, I say it every week. Love this movement. Easy to progress. Feels good. Love the machine. Never have any issues with this. It's just, this keeps climbing. This is like my one movement where I could throw weight on the bar and it's just never going to stop, right? I think I maybe had 1 week where I was a little off on this, but then the next week it was right back to normal and I blew my numbers out of the water again. So yeah, this felt good. And then the last movement for the day is going to be my rear delt fly, my reverse pec deck, whatever you want to call it. Hit 110 for 17 on that top set, which is 2 over my 10 to 15 goal. So next week, that weight on the top set will go up. Second, third, and fourth set, I did increase the weight this week from 90 to 95, and I hit 95 for 16, 15, 13. So I will probably keep the weight the same next week. We'll see how it feels. Probably, in fact, I think I definitely will, because I don't want to increase that top set and those back off sets at the same time. I think we'll just go up to 115 on the top set and then do 95 again for the following 3 sets. One thing you might notice here is you can see I have wrapped my grips, what the hell do you call them, straps, around the bar here, the handle. Rather than going overhand like I usually do, just kind of tightening them a little bit, I was fully wrapping them, and kind of that. The benefit that I found for me is that kind of pulled my shoulder forward a little bit, which kind of helped me get a better leverage into that movement, that actual fly backwards. So I really like doing that, and I'm going to stick with doing that. But yeah, I think I have maybe 1 more set of these on video. Again, my camera died on like the second set or the third set, or the second to last set, or the last set. That's what I'm trying to say. So regardless though, you guys see a couple sets of this. There's not much more to them. They're pretty damn simple. But yeah, that's going to be about it for this training session. After my rest period here, you guys will see a set, and then that'll wrap it up. I am going to be posting my hamstring session probably today or early tomorrow as well. Again, just getting caught up on some videos. And if you haven't seen it yet, I do have a full day of eating video that I put up last week. If you guys are curious what my diet looks like, we already moved that up a little bit. We added about 100 calories on training days on top of what I was eating before. Just a little bit more granola, a little bit more rice, nothing crazy major. But yeah, that is going to be it for this session, guys. And until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and take it easy.